We got a call about a pesky mole problem out at the White House. We're about to show this thing the definition of find out.
The mole type we are hunting today, called the AO cyst. That's spelled AOC. AO cyst, guys, on account of how hard it is to get rid of the darn things. Shh, we found a hole where this ugly little thing could possibly be. Come on! Oh, there it is. Darn, that thing is ugly as all hell. These AOC moles are a pain in the darn ass. So I'm gonna give it some food, yes I am.
Help me, I'm falling!
How's that for a stomping, you ugly little AOC rat?
Whoa,
And don't come back!
This can't be real.
Good morning, Patriots. How you doing today? This is Mike the Patriot coming to you live from the downtown metropolis of Lamont, Missouri, broadcasting on all the channels because it's Friday. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're a day where I come back to all the other channels that have kicked me off and muted me and told me I was a terrible human being because I didn't believe the things they believed the way they believed because they believed in freedom of speech as long as it was speech that they agreed with. Anyways, I'm just coming off a 7-day suspension on the YouTubes for whatever reason. And you know, over there on Facebook, so someone's saying, why no Christmas music? Well, because you can't play Christmas music, evidently, on Facebook. Yeah, they docked me because they didn't own the rights to the music, to which I had permission to use from the owner of the music, which was playing hymns which are not copyrighted. But anyways, I digress. They don't want to offend the overlords. So I didn't play the Christmas music, so at least the show will make it through. And maybe more than 10 people will watch it over on Facebook. And YouTube, they gave me a 7-day suspension for medical unauthorized medical opinion, to which I just want to clarify with YouTube that I have no medical opinions. I have no degree, no specialty, no understanding. I'm just a commentator. So when I talk about things, I'm just giving an opinion. That's all I'm doing. I'm giving no advice to anybody about anything. So today, when I talk about how RFK Jr. And the federal government has now banned transient medical procedures for anybody under the age of 18. Don't ban me, bro. I mean, I'm not giving advice. I'm reporting the news. That's all I'm doing. I'm no expert, but I do know that the reason the LBGTQRSTUVWXYZ plus minus multiplication exclamation point question mark people have to get the under 18 to be transients and have cut a dick off of me's and addictomies is because they can't reproduce. They can only recruit. And maybe, just maybe, if we wait till the young skulls full of mush turn 18 before we decide to have a cut a dick off of me, and then they have to spend the rest of their life sitting cross-legged like Gavin Newsom and Barack Obama. Before we do that, maybe we should wait until they're fully through puberty and they realize they really are a man or really are a woman and don't necessarily need these procedures. But then again, like I said, it's recruitment. But I digress. Oh, this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. And the word of the day is given by the Lord, presented by Marine in the Woods, is Exodus 17, 8 through 16. That's Exodus 17, 8 through 16. Make sure you crack open the Bible and see what God has for you today, because God is absolutely good all the time. Absolutely. No doubt about it. We're going to have stuff to talk about today. Turning point USA kicked off this weekend and yesterday, and the breaking news from the Brown stuff. I have to issue. I didn't put myself back on the screen here. Let's do that. I have to issue a clarification and apology because there was that feller. Well, I don't remember what his name was, Methuselah or something, that had deleted all of his stuff. A person of interest who wasn't a person of interest, or may still be person. I don't know, but evidently the Brown University. That guy wasn't the shooter or was the shooter. We still don't know what he shouted, whoever it was. We still don't know if there was more than one person or not. We need Candace Owens more than ever to get to the bottom of this, because I know that I don't know about what I don't know, and I don't know. However, it turns out they found the guy. It turns out, remember I mentioned that MIT professor in fusion technologies, meaning we talked about cold fusion and all this stuff. Did you know that Truth Social just merged with a fusion company that's right now building 50 gigawatt fusion reactors that they're going to start implementing across the country? But anyways, so this guy was the guy that attacked that Brown and killed the young gal who was the head of the GOP, attacked the professor at MIT and killed him in his home 2 days later, who was working on fusion technology. Yeah. And anyways, they found him. He suicided himself in a storage unit. Okay. I mean, that's what they're saying. Where's Candace Owens when you need her? We need Candace Owens' deep dive into all these things. I guess she didn't like any of the people involved here. They weren't her bestest good friend who she talked to every single night before he went to bed and made little kissy faces, even though he was married and she was married, but not to each other. So I guess Candace doesn't care. But we need Candace to dig into this. We got to know what we know about all this. What's going on? Here's the story as it started breaking.
Salem, New Hampshire. If you're curious where Salem is, it's about a 45-minute drive north of Boston. Local affiliates in the area saying that they're searching a vehicle in connection to the Brown University shooting. Lots to track tonight. Our coverage continuing in a moment.
So they show up at the storage unit. They get a search warrant because they found an abandoned car that matched the description. And they're searching. Seriously, this is at 5:31 p.m. yesterday. Authorities have located an abandoned vehicle in New Hampshire that is of interest to investigations probing the Brown shooting, several law enforcement sources told Target 12. As reported this afternoon, they are also examining a connection between Brown shooting on Monday and Monday's slaying of MIT professor. So why would the shooter kill the young Republican girl and the MIT professor?
You guys gonna pay for the shit that you do.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Sounds like the Chain Reaction movie. Well, I mean, I don't. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe it was just target of opportunity. I don't know. They're saying that the shooter actually knew the MIT professor somehow. But did he know the girl?
Learning that officials are looking into a possible connection between the Brown shooting and the killing of an MIT professor. Nuno Loureiro. He was a world-renowned professor and fusion energy physicist, and he was shot in his home Monday night. By Tuesday morning, he was pronounced dead. A homicide investigation was opened into his death. The shooting at Brown happened Saturday, 2 days before the shooting at MIT and 50 miles south. Earlier this week, investigators said there didn't seem to be any connections between the two, but it appears that may have changed. Joining me now to discuss as we await.
So we don't know what we don't know, but we know don't know. But so they're starting to link all this together, and things are starting to connect. I'm skipping some of it because some of it's just repeated. Here's Fox reporting on it.
Paul, I want to jump in for 1 second.
I really want to talk to the second person.
Yeah. So we are just getting some new reporting that was, I'm sure you saw earlier, but we can now report this. And this is coming from Brooke Taylor, also working this case. Providence police have identified the suspected Brown University shooter, and they are also they have a warrant. So we're going to hear more about this, obviously, in just a few minutes at this news conference. And they're also investigating a possible link between the Brown University shooting and the MIT murder. Paul, I know you were also aware that this may be coming, and now we are getting some confirmation that this is what we're likely to learn here a few minutes away.
So I don't know. I guess they found the guy. He's dead. Case closed. Problem solved. It's over. Nothing to worry about here. Continue on with your daily business. Here's some more scenes from the storage facility. Oh, there's no sound on this one. Let's see. Does yeah. Here's all the cops showing up. We got to get all the keystones in there. Everybody, the FBI, the state police, the DOJ, the NSA, the TSA. They're all showing up. Going to get in on the act. We've caught the guy. I'm sure it's the right guy. I'm sure it's the right guy. I just don't understand the connection. But then again, it's not my job to understand the connection. It's their job. They don't have to tell me. But they probably tell Candace Owens in a dream. I'm pretty sure that somebody in a dream will tell Candace Owens. Sources Sources confirm to me that the suspect shooter's gas bin, I think it's supposed to be has been. I never make typos like that. Never. Not me. No. Has been found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound inside the storage facility. I understand these people taking the easy way out. Doesn't surprise me. Just seems so tidy, doesn't it? One thing's for certain. Dead men tell no tales. Especially when they suicide themselves. It just seems, I don't know.
Has just told Fox News
that we need to get Candace Owens on the case because she can solve this. If she can't solve it, no one can.
Has just told Fox News that the suspected shooter was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Let's bring back in Paul Mara. Paul, obviously a huge development just broke while you were explaining beautifully what your opinion. So we know that the suspected shooter went into the facility. Those brave law enforcement officers followed him in there. We didn't know until this moment what if he had even remained in there, gone in his unit, exited the building. But Paul, we're now told by a highly placed source that they have found the suspected shooter dead, apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. What's your reaction?
Well, first of all,
Matthew Herring says the FBI always gets their man. That's because it's usually their man. But what do I know? I don't know nothing about nothing. Don't ask me nothing. I don't know. Just seems a little bit, I don't know. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial. I'm just like, boy, that's awfully convenient, When authorities involved in the manhunt for Brown University shooting suspects saw a call out from police investigating the killer of the MIT professor, they realized the vehicle of interest in the case was just like the one they were looking for. Well, golly, Shazam! It was the same kind of car used by suspects in both cases. But the license plates were different. According to law enforcement officials briefed in the case, a witness had provided a license plate to authority probing the Brown University shooting, who then investigated the car and its past drivers, which allowed them to identify the vehicle of interest in the MIT professor killing. Investigators were able, but the license plates were different. Investigators were able to locate the car in Salem, New Hampshire, and law enforcement is currently swarming the area after a license plate reader flagged one of the plates that matched the car to law enforcement officials, told CNN. The suspect has employed a series of countermeasures to avoid being tracked beyond swapping license plates in different cities, as he has seemingly planned ahead to avoid surveillance cameras and facial recognition technology. So we're to believe that this guy, we're going to get into his ID here in a minute, that this guy, who turns out to be an alien from Portugal, had sophisticated countermeasures to avoid being tracked, including swapping license plates and avoiding facial recognition cameras. Went and assassinated these two people for no connected reason, except that he was connected to the guy at the MIT thing because they both went to school in Portugal at one time. But that's what we got. That's what we're going on here. Here we go. Here's the announcement.
An individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national, and his last known address.
He was a 48-year-old man and a Brown student.
It was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is being conducted as we speak. And it goes without saying that I would like to personally thank the efforts again of the Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the Rhode Island Attorney General, the FBI, the ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshals, IRS, DEA, Secret Service, and NCIS.
Everybody wanted to get into the act. It's weird. Why would the Secret Service be involved? Here they are that they went to school together in Portugal.
And in the physics building, and he was studying physics. Have you tied all that up, and does that lead, why target one person in Massachusetts and then a whole class here in Providence?
Yes, it is true that Mr. Valente was a physics student. Also, we know that the MIT, the victim there, was in that discipline as well. I will tell you that there's multiple phases to an investigation. And so now, in a sense that we know the subject is deceased. Now that investigation continues to find out all of those answers to your question, sir.
Did you go to school with Professor?
The non-answer.
Professor who's killed. Can Brown answer that?
It is believed that in Lisbon, that those two individuals attended the same university in Portugal.
I mean, just because they attended the same university really doesn't mean much. I mean, that Clint Eastwood once came to Sedalia, Missouri. And you know what that means as a connection to me? Not a damn thing. I wasn't even here then. It came here because they were filming an episode of Rawhide here. Yeah. It's weird. I mean, it's just weird. I don't know. Here it is that Portugal is also where the MIT professor was from, which also is weird.
That subject matched the description of that person of interest that this police department was desperate to put handcuffs on. That individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national, and his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is being conducted as we speak.
Okay, so what are you saying there? It says, we may find out that the guy that deleted all his stuff and screamed Abu snack bar, then a professional killer, the MIT guy, and they found a way to tie it all together, blaming a Muslim. They wouldn't blame a Muslim, by the way. They'd probably blame a Jew. It's probably the Jews anyways. What did you have to do? What did you know, and when did you know it, Aaron? Here they are. They don't know what he said before he shot the little girl, but they do know he barked.
Attorney General, none of the suspect won't be prosecuted. Can you explain what he yelled in the classroom to America tonight so people can feel a little more comfortable?
Sure.
Was it something, terrorist related? Was it something specific to the kids in that class?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah. Well, back to that question just for a minute, just to clarify that. They had a interaction in the bathroom in Barris and Holly. So, I don't know, the Providence Police is obviously not going to patrol Barris and Holly. That's a question frankly, for Brown and their police department. So they had an interaction there, and then our citizen, followed him out because to him, as he explained it to us, this guy did not belong there, and so that's why he followed him out. In terms of what was said, I don't know any more today than what I told you yesterday, or the day before. There are some witnesses who said he said nothing. There are some that say he made a barking noise. Don't ask me. I don't know why. And that's it. There is no other spoken word beyond that we are aware of as we stand before you tonight. And we have spoken to everybody that we have been able to locate who's been inside.
So that tells it. He didn't say Agbu snack bar. He went woo, 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 or something. I don't know. Made my dog look up at me. It seems pretty tidy. Nip and tucked. Got the guy. He offed himself. It's fine. He offed himself for that. Where's Mark Wahlberg with a 22 with a homemade suppressor from a pop bottle on it when you need them, right?
My name's Alex Shea.
I don't know. Here is a man named Alex Smith who ripped the administrators of Brown College, which is now running they have a multi-million dollar, if not $1 billion endowment, but they're running a $46 million deficit, and they're charging $90,000 a year to go there as part of the Ivy League stuff. This young man testifies against the college. Let's just see. Let's see what he says. This should be fun.
My name's Alex Shea, and I'm a rising junior at Brown University, one of the most exclusive institutions in the world. But I'm not here to glorify the Ivy League. I'm here to warn you that the promise of American higher education, of opportunity through meritocracy, is under attack. I'm a legacy student at Brown. I went to a prep school that feeds to the Ivy League. My parents are doctors who can afford the $93,000 a year sticker price. In other words, I'm exactly who the Ivy League was built for. But what about the kids who weren't born on third base? Statistically speaking, for a smart kid from a poor family, an Ivy League degree can power their ascent to the upper income brackets better than anything else. That's the American dream. But today, that dream is now a luxury good. According to the New York Times, at Brown, the median student's family makes over $200,000 a year. Half the student body comes from the top 5% of earners. And research by Brown's own professor, John Friedman, shows that even equally qualified low-income students are vastly underrepresented. At this very moment, the American people are tightening their belts, and Brown is raising tuition to beyond $90,000 a year. And even while charging students the price of a luxury car, Brown is on track to run a $46 million deficit this year. Where's all the money going? I'll tell you where it's going. It's going into an empire of administrative bloat and bureaucracy. Brown employs 3,805 full-time non-instructional staff for just 7,229 undergrads. That's one administrator for every 2 students. This isn't education. This is bloat, paid for on the backs of students and families who are mortgaging their futures for a shot at a better life. Meanwhile, Grace Calhoun, Brown's athletic director, earns over $1 million. A household assistant on payroll tends to University President Christina Paxson. And when budget cuts are made, these expenses stay while the student experience deteriorates. My dorm floods when it rains, and the burger patties in our dining hall have been replaced by an unappetizing beef mushroom blend. The idea that Brown's administration can be streamlined isn't conjecture. We didn't used to have these many administrators. Across the nation, the number of university administrators has risen by 162% in recent decades. And it's no coincidence that correspondingly, the cost of education has risen 181% in inflation-adjusted dollars since the 90s. Across the pond, a world-class education at Oxford or Cambridge can cost about half as much as an Ivy League degree, in part due to a much lower administrative burden. The status quo has a real human cost. I recently learned of a brilliant young man from Pensacola, Florida, who got into Brown but was forced to walk away because the financial aid wasn't enough. Brown says it meets 100% of demonstrated need, but Brown gets to decide what that need is. Middle-class students in particular suffer from these policies, earning too much to qualify for generous scholarships, but not enough to go to Brown without straddling themselves with significant amounts of debt. And let's not forget that Brown is one of several Ivy League schools that settled a federal antitrust lawsuit last year for allegedly colluding to suppress financial aid offers. I'm a reporter for the Brown Spectator, and to document this problem, I created a website called Bloat at Brown that used AI to assess whether each administrative role was actually necessary. I sent each administrative employee a Doge-style email to ask them, what do you do all day? Instead of answering, Brown's response was retaliation. My social security number was leaked. Our website was hacked. And Associate Dean Kirsten Wolf launched a disciplinary investigation into a litany of baseless charges, such as emotional harm. When they couldn't get me, they charged every single board member of the Brown Spectator, an unprecedented attack on student journalism. But we refused to back down, and we won our hearings. There was no misconduct, only exposure, and that's what Brown feared the most. This committee has a responsibility, not just to investigate Ivy League antitrust violations, but to reclaim the American dream from those who have twisted it into a racket. I call on you today to subpoena Brown's president, Christina Paxson, and ask her why Brown costs $93,000 a year. The American dream isn't just for the legacies, the coastal elites, or the children of privilege. It belongs to the kid in rural Kansas with a 4.0 GPA, the first-gen student working a night shift, and the families who did everything right and still got priced out. They deserve a seat at the table. They deserve a shot at making it big. Their American dreams matter too. I thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I welcome your questions.
He seems like he has a bright future. He seems like the kind of person, when you say Ivy League, I mean, and I don't mean the Oriental eyes, well-spoken, well-thought, gets to the point. He doesn't stumble over his words like the Patriot Mike does. He can actually read. Seems like a pretty good kid. It seems like he'll, I don't know, whatever endeavors he goes off to do, he'll be great at it. This is what we want at our prestigious schools because we need really smart people to do really smart things in this country. But our schools are not about making smart people. Our schools are about two things: propagandizing and making loads and loads and loads of money. Our schools are Ponzi schemes. That's what they are. That's what they're there for. We need to make college education great again in this country. Wait till you find out. Everybody's asking in the comment section, well, how did this guy from Portugal, 43 years old, get into college? How did that happen? It's weird. I mean, how did it happen? Well, we got some questions asked. So let's see if we can get some of them answered. Let's see if we can get some of them answered because I have it right here. Let me see here. I know I have it because I've seen it. Oh, yes, right here. Nope, that's not it. Oh, I thought it was like right the next one up. We got all this Epstein stuff being released today, too. That's going to be fun. Where is it at? It's a little statement. Oh, wait. Nope, that's not it. It's a little statement put out by Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, here is what I was talking about with Trump, Truth Social, which is controlled, I think, by Eric Trump now. Trump Media merges with fusion firm. The Trump Media behind Truth Social is merging with nuclear fusion company TAE Technologies in a $6 billion all-stock deal. The aim is to create a publicly traded fusion energy firm targeting the energy needs of AI. Trump Media stock jumped on the news. This is the future, by the way. Guess who's partners in this? This TAE Technologies. Before Trump got involved, Elon Musk.
Oh, man, you have a pig on top.
Lots of interesting things, to say the least. So here it is, right here. It wasn't Tulsi Gabbard, it's Christy Gnomes. Gnome, not gnomes. There's not more than one of them. The Brown University shooter, Collado Manuel Nueve Valentin, entered the United States through the Diversity Lottery Visa Program, or DV1, in 2017 and was granted a green card. This heinous individual should never have been allowed in our country. In 2017, President Trump fought to end this program, following the devastating New York City truck ramming by an ISIS terrorist who entered under the DV1 program and murdered 8 people. At President Trump's direction, I am immediately directing USCIS to pause the DV1 program to ensure no Americans are harmed by this disastrous program. So how did he get in here? They have a lottery system for people immigrating to the United States of America. And they just say, okay, we're going to fill 1 million slots today, put everybody's name, spins, and the first 1 million to fall out. You win. Everybody gets in. Of course, if you can't get in through that system, just go through the southern border. It was fine the last 4 or 5 years. They kind of shut that down now, so it doesn't really work anymore. So this guy got into the country through a lottery system. Let me tell you something. Let me just say this. We are going to find out in the very, very near future that these lottery systems for allowing people into our country aren't lotteries at all. But I digress. Oh, fraud is everywhere. The fraud is everywhere. Isn't it wonderful? Fraud. We got to love the fraud. We got to love all the fraud because, well, that's what it's all about. If isn't it? So, Turning Point USA had their Turning Point stuff this weekend. They kicked off whatever, wherever. I don't even know where it's at. I don't know. Anyways, so opening ceremonies. And the new CEO, since Charlie Kirk has been promoted to heaven, is his beautiful wife, who almost half the country hates. She starts off with the opening ceremonies, and here she is at the Turning Point USA event.
Where were we? Okay. So anyways, the past 3 months I have learned a lot. You learn very quickly who is ready to go to war with you. You learn very quickly who thinks emotionally versus logically when you go through something as horrible that not only myself went through, but every single one of you in here that loved my husband. You find out who stays with you, who leaves. You find out a lot. You find out who's going to pray with you when there's no words left. And you also learn some unexpected things, like the fact that Joy Reid probably needs a really, really good hug. And honestly, I'm here for it if she needs it. I got a good hug for you. Good hug for you. I'll even touch the back of your head.
Saying she's got a hug for Joy Reid. Joy Reid could probably use. I mean, that's a pretty good point. That you want to talk about an unhappy woman. If you look up unhappy woman in the Bible, there's a picture of Joy Reid right next to resting bitch face chick from CNN. I mean, she is an unhappy woman. You know, the Bible says it's better to sleep on the edge of a roof than with a contentious woman. I'm just saying. That's what it says. Here's some more as she takes a little poke at Candace Owens.
Have 40 breakout sessions, 178 sponsors, all 50 states represented. We have 25 countries represented plus Puerto Rico, but I have the list here. Don't worry, guys. Egypt is not on the list. Don't worry about that. But, oh, how funny. I say Egypt and my iPad turns on. That's fun. Where were we? Okay. So anyways.
Egypt is not on the list. We're safe now. We're safe from them Egyptian planes flying around. I still don't get the connection of that, by the way. I don't. Because I thought it was the Jews that were killing us, not the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. But I digress. I mean, we'll get to that, a little deeper subject in a minute as we go down this rabbit hole of Turning Point USA. Here's some more from Erica. She talks about what their mission is going to be 2026 and 2028.
We are locked in and mission focused for both 2026 and 2028. We're investing in states and not just in races. So what I mean by that is we are building the red wall, Arizona, Nevada, New Hampshire. That's going to be very important to us. We're going to ensure that President Trump has Congress for all 4 years. We are going to get my husband's friend, J.D. Vance, elected for 48 in the most resounding way possible. And for our hometown.
So she's all in with J.D. Vance. Oh my gosh, the conspiracy theories. Give me a break, people. Sometimes you guys are dumb. Not you, the conspiracy theorists. Trump 2028. Well, Kim Clement did say another 4 years. Another 2 terms, he said. Another 2 terms. Anyways, so here she's talking about. Now, let me clarify something for you. That Candace Owens and her ilk have made it their mission to destroy Turning Point USA as an entity. And you have to ask yourself why that is. Because Donald Trump even says that it was Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA that made the difference in 2024. She's trying to destroy his legacy for some reason, and you have to ask what that is. I mean, if you don't know, you know, you know, you know, you don't know, you know, you know, you know. But you know what? She failed at her mission. Because listen to this.
I want to share with you off this paper. I'm not going to wing it this one because I want all of you guys to absorb the magnitude of these numbers. The number of student requests to get involved since 9/10, 140,000 plus get involved requests have been submitted since 9/10. 140,000. Total number of students involved. This is involved within Turning Point USA. 1 million plus students involved in Turning Point USA. Current chapter numbers as of December 18th, 2025. 3,082 Club America chapters. 1,432 college chapters. You don't have enough connections. You're not going to do it as of today. And we are starting 50 chapters per day at Turning Point USA. It's amazing. Something I also love right now is how we are getting some amazing state partnerships with Club America.
The numbers are growing. The revival is happening. You can't stop what God is doing, no matter how demonically hard you try. It is interesting to me the same people that hate Turning Point USA hate the Jews for the most part, because Tucker showed up. He gave a speech. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Here's Ben Shapiro. Now, I'm not a fan of Ben Shapiro, not because he's a Jew, just because I just don't like him. I don't know what it is. Rubs me the wrong way. But here he is. Here he is at Turning Point USA.
Coalitions. It's the job of those of us who try to shape public opinion to hold politicians to account and to hold them accountable to our values. We must not let fear of audience deter us from telling the truth. We must not let fear of other hosts deter us from telling the truth.
That may be what is it.
For example, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer, and yes, at Erica Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash, implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder, or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name. Erica Kirk and TPUSA never should have been put in the position to have to defend themselves against such specious and evil attacks, particularly in a time of mourning. And the people who refuse to condemn Candace's truly vicious attacks, and some of them are speaking here, are guilty of cowardice. Yes, cowardice. The fact that they have said nothing while Candace has been vomiting all sorts of hideous and conspiratorial nonsense into the public square for years is just as cowardly.
I got another little clip of him.
Because we have a duty to truth, we also have a duty to provide you with evidence of the claims that we make. Emotive accusations, conspiracy theories, and just guessing questions, that's lazy and stupid and misleading. None of them are a substitute for truth. None of them are a substitute for evidence. So, when Candace Owens says, I don't know, but I know, that is retarded. And we are all more retarded for having heard it.
Oh, I don't know, but I know. That I'm sure. I don't know what I don't know, and I definitely don't know much of what I already know. But, you know, I don't disagree with what he's saying here. You've all heard me talk about this over. I come from a different perspective than most of the commentators on this stuff, and that is what's going on is anti-God. That's why they don't like the Jews. That's why they don't like the Christians. What do you mean? Well, Candace Owens has come out and said, if you're Protestant, you're going to hell. Well, Candace, when I was in a little church I went to when I was a kid, in the literature for Sunday school, they had little demons casting Catholics to hell. This was like a fiery furnace, and they were like dumping them in. Serious. I don't believe that. Some of my really good friends who are Catholic are great men and women of God. So I don't believe that. However, I question where you're going to wind up because of the things that come out of your mouth. You know, you there are certain things that you say or don't say that one could question Christianity, your Christianity, or anyone else that says those things. You know, for example, this is just an example. This is not, kind of off the subject, but on the subject. You don't know, you know. Listen to this.
Do not like the concept of Christ the King Sunday, and I really don't want to preach on it. And the reason is that it has traditionally gotten preached as a kind of a triumphalist victory over all our enemies, militaristic kind of thing. And I think that kind of militaristic bullshit has absolutely no place in church.
The only people who don't like the triumph of the cross are demons. If you can't say that Christ is king in a triumphal way, then do you actually believe the gospel? She's probably caught up in woke politics more so than the gospel. No kings. But the truth of the gospel is that Jesus is king and he saved his people. That's something to be triumphal about.
If you cannot say that Christ is king, if you cannot say that Christ is king, you are not a Christian. Period. You may be religious, but you're not a Christian. By definition. If you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth the Lord, L-O-R-D, Lord Jesus, that God has raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. If you can't do that, you shall not be saved. And if you listen to the words that come out of some of these people's mouths, you have to ask. Tim Pool, he did say that. You know what? I was watching Tim Pool's excerpts of Tim Pool's podcast when he said that about not going to Turning Point. That is intellectual consistency. At least he's being honest with who he is and what he believes. You follow what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it. You know, he said he doesn't want to be a part of it. He's sick of it. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Don't care. And you go watch his show. I'm not going to try to put words in his mouth because I don't remember it all, and I didn't even think it was worthy of being part of my show to talk about this stuff. But if you want to hear what he says, here is Tucker Carlson asked about AIPAC. And let me tell you my position for some of you that maybe haven't watched my show that much. My position is this. You want to ban AIPAC because it's the Jews. I want to ban all PACs because they're all corrupt. I want to ban all lobbying because it's all corruption. Not just AIPAC, but I want to ban all the PACs from Qatar who said in an interview with Tucker Carlson that they've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars lobbying the American government. But that's okay. But the Jews, oh my God. Now, in recent news, can anybody tell me where the Jews have stormed the beaches to shoot up people that they don't agree with? Well, they were committing genocide, and let's not forget. Let's take a deep breath. Everybody with me. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Let it out. Now do you feel more calm and stuff? Let's talk about facts, not opinions. Okay? Fact number 1. The war with the Gazanians started when they attacked Israel. Took a bunch of people hostage, killed a bunch of people. Flew in on their little ultralights. Israel has demanded the release of the hostages. They would end the war. Hamas said no. They said, okay, we're going to bomb the snot out of you. They bombed the snot out of them, said, release the hostages, we'll end the war. Hamas said no. So they bombed the snot out of them, and they invaded them, released the hostages, and we'll stop. Hamas said no. Then when Donald Trump intervened, got Hamas to release who was left alive, Israel stopped. Those are the facts. Now we can get into, oh, they killed a bunch of children. Here's another fact for you. Hamas's own numbers. These are Hamas's numbers, not the United Nations, not Israel. Hamas's numbers. You go to my Telegram page, t.me/PatriotMike Thoughts. Scroll up about a month. You'll find this post. It's in there. The percentage of civilian to combatant deaths is 6.9%. I may be off by a point there, but it's 6 point something percent. That means the number of people killed in the conflict between Israel and the Gazanians, killing combatants, whether they're uniform or ununiformed, people shooting back at you. A war, one guy shooting another guy or 10,000 guys shooting another 10,000 guys. It's bad. The shooting range is fun until it's two-way. Then it's not fun no more. So the number of people killed, the 80-something thousand killed, out of the 80-something thousand killed, X amount of civilians were killed, non-combatant civilians, is 6.9%. World War II, the percentage of civilians to non-combatant civilians to combatants killed in all of World War II, both sides, is 10.1%. My friends, 6.9 is not a genocide. It's just not. All of these people screaming genocide, genocide, genocide are all silent when tens of thousands of men, women, or children are slaughtered in Nigeria and Sudan for being Christian by Muslims, including Tucker Carlson, who takes money from Qatar. Qatar funds the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, which is one and the same. I'm just saying. We're calmly discussing facts of this. All the same people were silent, dead silent, when it came to the Armenian Christians being slaughtered over the last 10 years by Turkey and other Islamic groups. Nobody said a word. Nobody cared. Nobody cared prior to 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea that the Nazi death squads, the Ukrainian Nazi death squads, were going through Crimea, slaughtering Christians by hanging them on a cross and setting them on fire because they were Christians. Nobody cared. Nobody says a word. But 6.9%. I may be reporting the numbers wrong, Mustang. I'm giving examples. The numbers are from Hamas. The 6.9% is correct. This Hamas's numbers, not mine. Hamas's numbers, not the United Nations numbers, not Israel's numbers, not America's numbers, Hamas's numbers. Hamas put that number out. Tard, continue watching because I'll prove what you just said wrong. It is amazing to me how we can condemn one person or one group of people, and that's perfectly fine, but condemning another group of people, that's wrong. Because if you take this next, I want you all to do something for me. I want you to take this next speech that I want you to take this speech. This answer to this question that Tucker's about to give. Actually, I got another one that I want to play too. And I want you to replace Jew with Muslim. Okay? And then we'll play the other video too.
Is the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, commonly known as AIPAC, is them being in America and not registered with FARA like all other lobbying groups in America, is that America first? Is it America first for senators, Congress, and even our president to take money from AIPAC?
Is it America first to take money from a foreign lobby so you'll send taxpayer dollars?
AIPAC is an American organization of American Jews.
You know, even the question kind of answers itself. Obviously it isn't. And that's not an attack on Israel. It's certainly not anti-Semitism, despite the efforts of many to claim that it is. It's just an obvious statement. And the fact that people are attacked for asking the question. This is something that I talked to Charlie a lot about in his final months, because he was being attacked as an anti-Semite for asking that question. And we've memory hold that, but I was there, so I saw it. That's not the right way. Don't attack people's motives. And I have a lot to attack people's motives. I'm trying to remind myself, don't do that. Respond to what they're saying, right? And so, no, of course it's not. And it's totally fine to ask about why a foreign government tried to sink one of our ships in 1967. That doesn't make you an anti-Semite, sorry. Those are Americans who died. And by the way, yeah, whatever. Anyway, but the point is, no, of course not. And that's why they won't have the conversation. And my point is, you know, I'm 56, my kids are grown. I'm just not afraid of you at all. I don't hate you or anyone else. I love this country. I'm going to be here till I die. I have an absolute God-given right to ask these questions. And I'm going to keep doing that, period. And you can shoot me or put me in jail, but the questions won't go away. So no, of course it's not. And that's why they respond with like rage and shame. because you caught him doing something they can't defend. Duh.
Hey Tucker, how you doing? Thanks for taking questions. My name is Michael Lasher, and I've come here from Munich, Germany, to introduce you and others to my book, The Same Boat: A Guide to Heal the Divide. And it addresses the Cold Civil War that's got us so split, and the goal of it is actually to shift the the symmetry of the bell curve distribution of the political spectrum from what we had at the end of the 2024 election, 52% Trump, 48% Kamala Harris.
I'm gonna cut that short. Because I want to get to the next one. So Tucker Carlson says you have to ask questions. And they sunk the boat, Well, they didn't sink it. They did attack it. But there's a lot more to that story than the conspiracy theories will let you in on. Like, for example, that boat may have been a CIA operation. But that's a whole nother story. I'm not justifying what they did. It was a mistake. They've all admitted it. But Tucker doesn't ask anything about, I don't know, Islamists killing Jews on a beach. He doesn't ask any questions about that. We just have to ask questions, We gotta question the motives of these people. Well, no, don't question the motives. Just question what they say. What they say. It's interesting. What do they say? It's interesting. What do they say? We have to question. Who are they? The Jews, of course. What about the Muslims? What do they say? We have to question it, don't we? Now what Tucker just said? But he doesn't.
We're seeing now right-wing bases. Who would have thought that Tucker Carlson, of all people, would sit there and be the #1 advocate against Zionism in America today? Candace Owens, did you guys see the Ted Cruz interview where Tucker Carlson rips into Ted Cruz and just completely destroys him? Matt Walsh likewise, and there's a huge Marjorie Taylor Greene. Sean King said to me when we were in the car once, he said, Sammy, you don't understand who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. She's the representative of the most racist area in Georgia. African Americans were told not to go to her area. She's now one of the loudest advocates against Zionism. But here's my point about the Ummah when you said that we've done everything we can. Why has that change taken place? Because we've started to deploy a power that we haven't maxed out yet. Trump is looking at Tucker Carlson, who's saying we shouldn't get involved. Candace Owens, we shouldn't get involved. Matt Walsh, we shouldn't get involved. Dave Smith, Trump needs to be impeached if he goes into Iran. So Donald Trump, because of that scream, because of you here in Kuala Lumpur, because of us in London, because of those in Berlin, in Rome, because we actually decided to speak about it, because it became relevant, because we decided to tweet about it, because we decided to because we decided to do da'wah at last instead of sleeping, what happened was Trump instead went to the Iranians and said to them, listen, I need a way out. I'm going to send 2 bombers. They're going to bomb. But what did Israel say? These 3 sites. Your scream, your voice, it has power. It shifted an entire U.S. foreign policy. It stopped Trump from intervening in Iran itself. And this is the whole point. When people say, why come to Kuala Lumpur? Why go to these places? It's because the power is not there like you think it is. The power is here. We are achieving results. They said that when Trump comes to power, it will be disastrous, like for Muslims in America. Mahmoud Khalil, arrested, released. Rumaysat Oztur, arrested, released. Mohsen Mahdawi, arrested, released. American Muslims for Palestine, tried in Michigan, the case was dropped. Tried in Nevada, the case was dropped. They tried to pass the anti-boycott bill, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she pulled it. They tried to do a non-profit killer bill where the Attorney General would have the unilateral right to remove a tax-exempt status. Guess who removed that clause from the bill? Christian churches who said, why is Zionism intervening in terms of how we decide our non-profit? The reality is that people are making an effort and it's working.
Dawa, that's right. What is that? Marine in the woods? Can you type in a definition of that word? It's just curious. I didn't look it up. I can guess, by the way. I can guess what that word means, but I didn't look it up. It's just weird that all of a sudden all of these, oh, we gotta go after Israel. We gotta go after Israel. But what about? I mean, Israel's not blowing people up in pizzerias. I don't have to open Agbu snack bars in pizzeria unless somebody invades.
Every ideal nightmare of a Muslim Europe will come true. They can be as mad as they want. I don't care. America will be a Muslim country. Russia will be a Muslim country. Islam will enter every house, inshallah. But we have to be a part of that change. We have to be a part of that da'wah. We have to be a part of those ghuraba who stand firm on our aqeedah and our practice and our deen and never, ever apologize. We're unapologetic. Never, ever compromise. We're uncompromising.
Yeah, interesting, right? Interesting, right? Let me go to the next one.
Today, we have 43 state delegates in the United States who are Muslim. If they want to run for Congress, we may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ. Today, we have 43 state delegates in the United States who are Muslim. If they want to run,
we see that the Christians celebrate the so-called birth of Isa alayhi salam, which is a pagan holiday. These rogue liars make claims against Allah Jalla wa Ala that are mind-blowing, so much so that hearts turn away from. The beginning of every Gregorian year, they make the celebration claiming that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a wife and a child. How can a Muslim after this celebrate, congratulate, intermingle with these kuffar, claiming that Allah Jalla wa Ala has a wife and has a child? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath is upon them. He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala means, indeed you have brought forth a terrible evil thing. And do not fall, ya ikhwa, for the interfaith nonsense. These people who give khutab and come to the masajid claiming that the Yahud are not kuffar, the Nasara are not kuffar. No one is kafir. We're all the children of Adam. We worship Allah differently. Brothers in humanity, don't fall for this, ya ikhwa. This is the new thing that is going on today.
As Muslims want to implement here in the United States, we believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution and I will establish the only logical and rational Constitution, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
When it comes to spreading Islam on a state level, on a societal level, that method prescribed is jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed that the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought.
As Muslims want to implement here in the United States, we believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution.
The Constitution should be replaced by the Quran. Yep. We need to defend this. Here's Tucker Carlson giving his speech. Remember when Ben Shapiro, who I'm not a fan of, gave his speech, they cheered when he talked about Israel. Here's Tucker talking about his support for Islam.
Most people agree with that. Most Americans have more in common with each other than they disagree on. And almost everybody agrees on that. And almost everybody is willing to tolerate a good faith argument about how to get there. Except a few. And they're the ones running around calling everyone an anti-Semite. But everyone else is like, yeah, of course, that should be the debate. And they'll vote for you. They want that because they know they haven't had that. That's the fact. And what you're watching now, attacking millions of Americans because they're Muslims, it's disgusting. And I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not.
Attacking millions of Americans because they're Muslims is disgusting. Attacking millions of Americans because they're Jews is your patriotic duty.
It's disgusting. And I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I know there's a lot of effort to claim I'm a secret jihadi. I'm not. You should not attack people on those grounds. And you're seeing it from Republicans. What the hell are you doing? What you're doing is trying to divide the country. And I've lived through 50 years of this crap. All these fake race wars that they're always promoting. Oh, go hate each other while we loot the treasury. That's exactly what's going on. And most people are totally sick of that. So yes, there is a possibility for a huge coalition of decent people once they free their minds from the traps set for them by others and realize, wait a second, we all want to make this country better. And the 15% or 30% who don't, okay. You know, good luck in Maryland or wherever you wind up. But the rest of us would like to fix it.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If we can all just get along with Islam. The problem is you don't get along with Islam. Let me tell you something, Tucker. When Islam takes over, they will kill you. You just proclaim to be a Christian. Do you realize, Tucker, that in Qatar you can't proclaim to be a Christian? I played that video. There are state-sponsored Christian churches in Qatar in one little tiny 6-acre location, and you have to get a permit from the government to go to the state-sponsored Christian churches. But you support Qatar. You went over to Qatar. You just had a big old thing about Qatar. But the Jews are bad, you said. And the comment section, Tucker or Charlie Kirk would have been in favor of what Tucker. Not really. No, you're wrong on that. How do you know? How do you know? Well, Tucker said you were wrong, or Charlie Kirk said you're wrong on that. Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. You know what is compatible with Western civilization? Judaism. The Ten Commandments, which is from the Jews. That's why it's called Judeo-Christian worldview, which Tucker rejects for the Islamic worldview. By his own words, go watch the interview in Qatar. All of these influencers are compromised, in my opinion. Here's Charlie Kirk in his own words. The president reposted it.
What is the type of country that we want to live in? I want to live in a type of country where you don't have to lock your doors at night. A type of country where church attendance is going up. A type of country where people are going to get married and have children. A type of country where we are not going to have a Muslim Marxist mayor of New York City. There's something wrong with that, everybody. Now, this is where people say, Charlie, you can't say that. Let me repeat it for whatever stenographer for the media. There's something wrong when you have a Muslim Marxist mayor of New York City, our greatest city. There's something wrong with that. In fact, we don't talk enough about Islam. There is a red-green axis that is trying to suffocate this country. We talk a lot about the red, which is the Marxist. We don't talk nearly enough about the Islamist. We don't talk nearly enough about the hundreds of thousands of Muslims that we have voluntarily imported into our country that build mosques, implement Sharia law. They court. I don't know if you guys have this problem in South Carolina or not, but I'm thankfully no. But you go to Minneapolis, you even go to Dallas, you go to New York, and it will metastasize. It will spread. You know why? Because the women of the West, they get cats. The women of Muslims, they have 8 kids. Eventually, it doesn't work very well. It's just a bunch of math. The women of the West have abortions. The women of Muslims, they have entire communities they can fill. When you import one, you get 32, 10 years later, chain migration, all this nonsense. People say, but Charlie, don't you understand that the immigrants make our country better? Hold on a second. Immigration without assimilation is an invasion. When someone is a practicing Muslim in this country, 5 times a day, they are praying to another land. Imagine what that does to you. Literally, in Islam, you are pointing yourself to another nation. You're not pointing yourself to this nation. You're pointing yourself to Saudi Arabia and Mecca 5 times a day. One of the 5 pillars of Islam is to leave America and go do a Hajj into Saudi Arabia. We as Americans are being played as suckers as we import hundreds of thousands of people that do not assimilate, take our government benefits, infiltrate, spy, and metastasize. And President Donald Trump has a once-in-a-100-year opportunity to say no more, and you're all going home. We're going to take this country back and restore it once and for all. And some people will say, well, Charlie, that is hateful. That is loving to the nation. Do you know what's hateful? They're being hateful because they actually don't love America. We're simply calling out their hate, and we're meeting their hate with a nice one-way ticket back to Mogadishu. And let's talk about what the Bible says. Every time immigration comes up in the Bible, assimilation comes right alongside of it. You must learn the customs. You must learn the language. In the later book of Deuteronomy, Moses' farewell address, he says, be careful who you allow into the nation of Israel, because the foreigner can soon become your master. Boy, Zohran Mamdani becomes the mayor of New York City.
I can't say any better than Tucker can. Tarred and Feather says that, or Tucker, excuse me, Charlie Kirk can. Tarred and Feather says that Tucker argues for basic human rights of his enemies, unless they're Jews. Do I have more to talk about? Yeah, I do actually have quite a bit more to talk about, because we're being fed a bunch of malarkey. You know, a bunch of malarkey. Here's Tucker Carlson. It's AI, and it's a meme, but here's Tucker Carlson.
Well, apparently we're not going to war with Venezuela. My sources were wrong. I just wanted to share how it is that I got the information, if you allow me. Last night I had a dream. President Maduro came to me in the dream and he said, Tucker, El Presidente Trump is declaring el war on Venezuela. I need your help, O Tucker. The dream was so real that I had to check if it was true or not. So I called Candace Owens. She said that all dreams are totally credible sources of information. That's where she gets all her information from. So now I know we're definitely going to war with Venezuela. I had to check with a government source one last time before I leaked this totally credible information. So I called Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she said, Tucker, you go ahead and leak that information. I also had a dream about it. So that's basically what happened.
That's fake. It's AI. It's hilarious because it's almost true. I mean, the Babylon Bee couldn't have done better with that one, in my opinion. Anyways, so Candace Owens the other day did an interview with this guy. His name was Matt or something. I don't know. She gave him a false name to hide his identity, even though his face was on camera. He's been running from them because they're going to kill him because of his secret information. Supposedly, this guy saw Erica at a hotel at Fort Huachuca, and then a meeting with I don't know, some kind of grand conspiracy. Erica Kirk was killed off. She just did this. Now, a few days ago, Erica, let me tell you something. It says in the Bible that when you have a problem with a brother or sister, someone who claims to be a Christian, you do 3 things. This is what you do. The first thing you do is you go to them in private and you say, look, stop. Just stop, please. Well, we have this problem. Let's work it out. If that person that you have a problem with refuses to work it out, then what do? You take it to the elders of the church. In this particular case, I don't know how that would work, but the first step that Erica did is she reached out to Candace and said, let's talk. So guess what's next? They're taking it to the elders. Who's the elders? I'm not sure how that's going to work, but this is going to escalate. And the third step in this process, this is a biblical process when you have a problem with a brother or a sister in the church. The third step is that to bring it to the entire church body And if they're still unwilling to repent, you cast them out. Let me tell you, the first step in that process was Erica reaching out to Candace. What has Candace done afterwards? Doubled down. First of all, let me ask you, is there anybody in the comment section has ever been to Fort Huachuca, Arizona? Because I have. My daughter was stationed there. I'm not going to get into that sort of detail, but my daughter was stationed there. Sierra Vista is the town outside of it. The guy's story doesn't add up because I've been to the place. It just doesn't add up. I haven't watched the whole interview, just segments of it. Marine says he's been there. It's only like 20 miles from the Mexican border. Matthew Herring, I forgot that you've lived there for 10 years. I forgot about that. That's true. Actually, that's true. Yeah. It just doesn't add up. Now, so it says Candace Owens in panic mode. She's turned on her own audience that has begun to question whether she's can even be trusted. This is Ein Miles Chong. Can even be trusted after she failed to repeatedly produce evidence for her claims. She assures her fans that they'll respect her after she delivers. But here she is talking about that interview. And then I've got some breaking news from other investigating journalists.
Sorry, got cut off there, but I sense their panic, and we all sense their panic right now, and they're like trying to like push this last piece of the psychological operation, which is like, don't believe in any politicians. Even Candace has sold out. Like Candace is sold out. She took the money. This is a mind game, and I am telling you, we are very close. Like, we are so close. I genuinely believe the feds were fully involved at every layer of this, and we're going to go back to Camp Huachuca, the Fort Huachuca, Fort Huachuca in Arizona, that story that we told that made the feds freak out in the first place. Like, this episode right here, you're going to walk away, and you're just going to be like, you know what, respect you, Candace, respect to the game for holding things back. Sorry, got cut off there, but I sense their panic, and we all sense their panic right now.
So
And
she interviews this guy. Well, the problem, Candace, is that you don't live in your own universe, and you're entitled to all the opinions you want, but you're not entitled to your own facts because, well, here we go. Breaking, Candace Owens' secret whistleblower identified. Spread this far and wide. He's a fraud. There are many red flags of the interview Candace did with one of her fans today. One of the main things that stuck out to me was she claimed the guy's name was Harry, but changed it to Mitch because people were after him. If that were true, didn't she literally blow his cover on her show? This is how dumb the audience is. The guy claims that he had to change his name and has been running for his life from the assassins for 35 years and wants to keep a low profile, but shows his face on supposedly the biggest podcast in the world. He talks about various things he did in the military, including discovering cartel tunnels and finding out that military worked with the cartel and more. And you know what? The military did Fast and Furious. That's all I got to say about that. Well, turns out he never really changed his name at all. His name is Michael Harrison Snow. It's right here on this website that he actually a medic that got medically discharged after a rock climbing accident. I told you a story about how I believe that most of these grandiose people never really were like my buddy that I talked about. Not my buddy, the guy in this group that wanted to be the commander, wanted to be the president, wanted to be the king of the sea of this group. He comes dressed up in his battle rattle and his BDUs, calling himself the general, and his little buddy the colonel. And I said, who is this guy? Turned out he was a cook in the Marine Corps, and didn't make it out of AIT before they removed him for what's the term they use? ability to adapt. Anyways, same sort of thing here. Candace did no research once again. She either didn't properly vet this guy, or she purposely led him on a show to spread lies directed at Erica Kirk. Repost, blah, 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 more to come. Here he is right here. Retired Staff Sergeant Mitch Snow. Yes, he is. Served in the Army Special Forces as a medic. As a small child, his life dream was to be a Green Beret. While scouting out a drop zone using his rock climbing training, he fell more than 80 feet, broke both his ankles, back and neck, kneecaps, feet, and dislocated his shoulder. Medically discharged and devastated to leave the job that he loved. Mitch continues work hard to gain mobility through therapy. There he is, right there. Anyways, yeah. And, there are, he could have, I don't know, maybe he did. But he's saying that he's down there at Fort Huachuca and saw Erica meeting with a bunch of people. And so definitely. But if you've ever been to Fort, yeah, I'm sorry, it's just not. It's just. And how do you know if, let's say, all that's true? Well, there it is. There's a conspiracy. She's out to get, maybe they were working to get the votes straightened out in that state. Because Arizona and Georgia are the most corrupt Republican-ran voting systems there are. I don't know what to say other than that, what I just said. I said it, so it has to be true, right? But then again, I don't know what I'm talking about. And neither do you. And that's the problem with all of this BS, mumbo-jumbo, Barbara Streisand crap, Bernie Sanders crap that's out there. We build all these conspiracy theories. We chased all this crap, and then when the truth comes out, we don't believe the truth because we've been believing the lies all the time. Fort Huachuca is the military intelligence fort. Yeah, that's where all the drones around the world are run by, right there. Yep. Now here's another story. Glenn Beck interview here. Listen what's said. Listen with Hermet Dillon. She is deputy AG.
Do you think that the people at the FBI and the DOJ in all levels realize that, because I know you do they realize how to the end the American people are? They're starting to lose faith. If we don't start to see people at least charged and have a fair trial, I'm not even saying that they go to jail. Hopefully they would if they broke a law, but showing these people, because we keep getting investigation after investigation after investigation, and then it just sits there. There's a story out today about the Clinton Foundation and all the investigations, what they found. I don't have any faith that nobody's going to jail for that. Nobody's going to go to jail for that. And we're at this place to where it's up to the DOJ and the FBI to do their job and then start bringing some justice, because if we lose in 28 and you haven't cleaned up and set clear rules of the law does matter, all these people got away with it last time. It's going to be 1,000 times worse in 2028.
No, I hear you, and I'm worried about it. I'm a citizen who loves this country, and as you know, I've donated countless millions of dollars of my billable time to being engaged in politics. And so let me just set some expectations. So you come into the DOJ, I had about 400 attorneys plus working in my department. I have 1/3 of that now, because when I set the rules of what we're going to do here in this department, 2/3 of the people pieced out and quit. And some of the ones who are left behind are leaking to the press what we are doing. And so that's the fight in my department. Okay. And then you look at, where does most of this work occur? When you look at the hundreds of thousands, over 100,000 people who work at the Department of Justice, a lot of them work for the FBI. Well, it's only the very top layer of that is politically appointed and committed to the president's agenda. I would say the vast majority of that agency is, legacy, doing what they're doing, much of which was not good for America, I'm going to say.
So, yeah, the top, they haven't cleaned out the DOJ yet. By the way, a Supreme Court ruling just right now. Here, let me just talk about this. By the way, I'm completely lost in what I'm talking about. The order that I put in place is gone. But this is Glenn Beck. It's Trump versus Slaughter, the deep state on trial. It says the administrative state has long operated as an unelected super government. Trump versus Slaughter may be the moment voters reclaim authority over their institutions. It says Washington is watching and worrying about a U.S. Supreme Court case that will very well define the future of American self-government. And I don't say that lightly. At the center of Trump versus Slaughter is a deceptively simple question. Can the president, the one office chosen by the entire nation, remove the administrators and experts who wield enormous, unaccountable power inside the executive branch, like at the DOJ? This isn't a technical fight. It's not a paperwork dispute. It's a turning point, because if the answer is no, then the American people no longer control their own government. Elections become ceremonial and bureaucracy becomes permanent, and the Constitution becomes a suggestion rather than the law of the land. Government run by experts instead of elected leaders is not a republic. It's a bureaucracy with a voting booth bolted into the front to make us feel better. It's called comofascism, as I've explained many times. That simply cannot be. Justice Neil Gorsuch summed up it perfectly during oral arguments on Monday. There is no such thing in our constitutional order as a fourth branch of government that's quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative. Yet, for more than a century, the administrative state has grown like kudzu, quietly, relentlessly, and always in one direction. Today, we have a fourth branch of government, unelected, unaccountable, insulated from consequence. Congress hands off lawmaking to agencies. Presidents arrive with agendas, but bureaucrats remain, and they decide what actually gets done. If the Supreme Court decides that presidents cannot fire the very people who execute federal power, they are not just rearranging an organizational chart. The justices are rewriting the structure of the republic. They are confirming what we have long feared. Here, the experts rule, not the voters. Government run by experts instead of elected leaders is not a republic. No, it's a bureaucracy with a voting booth bolted into the front to make us feel better. It's a bureaucratic dictatorship, communism. The founders warned us. The men who wrote the Constitution saw this temptation coming. Alexander Hamilton and James Madison in the Federalist Papers hammered home the simple principle again and again: power must remain traceable to the people. They understood human nature far too well. They knew that once administrators are protected from accountability, they will accumulate power endlessly. It's what humans do. That's why the Constitution vests the executive power in a single president, someone the entire nation elects and can unelect. They did not want managerial council. They did not want permanent priesthood of experts. They wanted responsibility and authority to live in one place so people could reward or replace it. So this case will answer a simple question. Do the people still govern this country, or does a protected class of bureaucrats now run the show? Look around. The experts instead insisted they could manage the economy and produce historic debt and inflation. The experts insisted they could run public health and left millions of Americans sick, injured, and dead while avoiding accountability. The experts insisted they could steer foreign policy and delivered endless conflict with no measurable benefits to our citizens. And through it all, they stayed untouched, unelected, and utterly unapologetic. If a president cannot fire these people, then you, the voter, have no ability to change the direction of our government. You can vote for reform, but you will get the same insiders making the same decisions in the same agencies. This is not self-government. This is intura. I'm not sure what that word means. Glenn is smarter than me. Disguised as expertise. A monarchy can survive a permanent bureaucracy. A dictator can survive a permanent bureaucracy. A constitutional republic cannot. Not for very long, anyway. We are supposed to live in a system where people set the course. Congress writes the laws, and the president carries them out. When agencies write their own rules, judges shield them from oversight, and presidents are forbidden to remove them, we no longer live in that system. We live in something else, something our founders warned us about. And the very people became spectators of their own government. Restoring the separation of powers does not mean rejecting expertise. It means returning expertise to its proper role, advisory, not sovereign. No expert should hold power that voters cannot revoke. No agency should drift beyond the reach of the executive. No bureaucracy should be able to grow branches in the Constitution. The Constitution never gave it. The Supreme Court now faces a choice that will shape American life for a generation, and it can reinforce the Constitution, or it can allow the administrative state to wander even further from democratic control. This isn't about President Trump. This isn't about Rebecca Slaughter. The former Federal Trade Commission official suing to get her job back. It's about whether elections still mean anything, whether American people still hold the reins of their government. That is what is at stake, not procedure, not technicality. That word. But survival of the system built on a revolutionary idea that the citizens, not experts, are the ones who rule. That's what's happening. That's what this all is about, by the way. Does the president really have the power to fire people?
Screaming is coming from inside.
How dare he? All of this judicial stuff, all this stuff that's happening with the judges and everything else, all this stuff that's happening with the bureaucrats, all this stuff Doge found out, all this stuff. All this stuff hinges on this one decision right here, and that is, who is in charge of our government? Who runs our government? That's the question that you have to ask. Is it the president you voted for, whether it is Trump or Biden or Obama or Clinton? Who's in charge? Who makes decisions at the executive branch? Is the president just a figurehead? Is he just there to, make speeches and make sure the money gets spent in Ukraine that the bureaucracy wants the money to go to? We shouldn't be spending money in Israel. We shouldn't be spending money any damn where. I've been very consistent in this. Let's stop spending money. We're $38 trillion in debt. Every 2-bit dictator on this planet gets a check from the government, and we find out that the USAID is giving money to everybody. We find out that the Social Security system is broken and that there's 1 million people receiving checks that don't exist. We find out that the IRS, that there are the government employees, there's 1 million people there that don't exist that are getting checks. We find out that we're being raped and pillaged by our own government, but we can't do anything about it because we can't fire anybody because the government says no. That's what's happening before the Supreme Court. That's what the arguments are all about right now. And you have to ask yourself, which side of that do you stand on? It's the Jews. It's the Muslims. It is us, the United States of America. We pay for it. We fund it. We support it. Wherever there's an atrocity happening in the whole entire planet, whether it's flat or round, it is paid for and brought to you by the United States government. That is why I have said over and over again that when God reveals what he's going to reveal, that we will tear our clothes and sit in sackcloth and ashes and repent and cry out to a vengeful God for mercy and forgiveness on us. Kim Clement said it like this: I will bring America to her knees and humble her yet some more. We will come to that point. We will be broken as a people when we realize all of the evil that we have done around the planet, when we realize that all of our politicians are lying to us, that our bureaucracy is getting fat, dumb, and happy, when we realize that our $4.5 trillion income on our tax base is more than enough to pay for everything we do with our government, when we get rid of all the fraud, waste, and abuse, that people like Rand Paul and Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they talk about, but they don't do about. Because just like the rest of them, they're all part of the system. I played you a few minutes ago videos of Muslims celebrating that they're getting away with it. Even saying that Donald Trump did their will when they bombed Iran. Do you remember? Can you go back far enough? Can you go back far enough to remember what everybody was saying about that? What Tucker Carlson was saying about that? What Rand Paul was saying about that? What Thomas Massey was saying about that? What Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying about that? Can you remember? Donald Trump's going to get us into a war. We're all going to die. All of our children are going to die in a war overseas fighting Iran. It's going to be horrible and terrible, and problem solved. Do you remember that? Well, the same people are saying the same thing about Venezuela. And Venezuela is big, big, big. It's way more than just the oil. And what is Rand Paul doing? Repeating the same thing. Have you not learned your lesson there, Rand Paul?
You don't approve of the boat strikes, we got that. But are you okay with strangling Maduro's cash flow with an oil blockade?
Well, if you want to go to war with another country, our founding fathers anticipated that, and they said that it would be declared by Congress. The power would...
Okay. I agree, Rand, except that you, Congress, how long have you been serving, by the way? You know what would be really cool? You know what would be really cool? If we could elect a body of people, maybe two bodies of people, that could go up there and they could like pass laws and regulations and rules by which our government works, and they could like maybe pass a law that takes back the power that the government, that Congress, that people like Rand Paul gave the president. Any president, not President Trump, but the president as in the seat, about war, so we could draw that back in so that it would take Congress to declare war, but they gave him that power. And he's right. It should go the other way. But you guys did that. Wouldn't it be great if we could elect a body that would like make those kind of decisions? Wait. I don't see you introducing a bill, Rand. I'm only one of 100 and nobody would vote for it with me. That's exactly what your dad would say. I'm the king of earmarks in the budget because you got to get the money. This is the way the system works. We got to cut all the spending and get rid of all the earmarks. But while we're bitching about cutting spending, let me make sure I spend more and add more earmarks. That was your daddy. You learned the lesson very well. But let's continue.
Was never given to presidents to begin war. This certainly looks like a massive armada, a massive amount of military force. And if bombs begin dropping on Venezuela, or there's an invasion, or essentially a blockade, which is an act of war, there really should be a vote by Congress. But you can't simply say, oh, we designate these people to be terrorists. Realize that the boats that are being blown up, about 1 in 4 boats that are interdicted by the Coast Guard don't have any drugs on them.
Okay. 1 in 4 boats that are in it. Listen to what he said. This is word games. Rand, you're not being honest and you know it, so you're playing word games. I think that's a Weird Al song. About the boats being blown up. 1 in 4 of boats interdicted by the Coast Guard. These aren't boats interdicted by the Coast Guard. These are boats they have intel on. They know exactly where they're coming from. They know exactly who's in it. This is what they've said several times. They know exactly what's in the boat. 1 in 4 boats interdicted by the Coast Guard don't have any drugs or people in it. 1 in 4 boats interdicted by the Coast Guard. This is not the Coast Guard. He's conflating two different things. Let's continue.
So there's a 25% error rate, and there is no evidence these people are armed. We have never in our past decided just to shoot smugglers who are unarmed without even proof that there's.
There's no way of knowing they're armed. There's no way there's knowing there's not. So Rand, before we send the Marines, because that's who it would be, off the ships to interdict and capture them, you first. You put on the uniform. You get on that boat. They're not armed anyways, sir. Shouldn't have a problem with that, right? No. Isn't it right, Marine, that artillery is always the best way? Fire for effect. Way much easier. How do you take out a sniper's nest? A 109 howitzer, a 105 howitzer. Air support. A drone.
Smuggling anything. So I think this is a horrendous thing and should stop. I think it's illegal and immoral.
To include the embargo, not the embargo, with the oil tankers, the blockade. You opposed to the blockade as well?
Well, our government says that they're just not allowed to sell their oil, so it's illegal according to our laws, but not illegal according to their laws. So I don't like it. I think it's a provocation, and I think it's a prelude to war. I think war should be something we do in self-defense when we have to go to war, when we were attacked on 9/11, when we were attacked in World War II. But for the most part, these wars of choice or wars of offense, I don't think are a good idea. I mean, I'm not for sending you know, the kids I know in the military, I'm not for sending them down there to die for oil. The president announced the other day he's going back there to seize our land, our oil, and they've been ripping us off by taking our oil. That made no sense at all. And somebody, before you go to war, I'd at least say or explain what they mean by they're saying the Venezuelans are stealing our oil. What do they mean by that kind of comment?
Oh, golly gee, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. What does he mean, stealing our oil? I just don't know. You're not that dumb, Rand. You're not that dumb. Duh, they nationalized the oil that our companies went down there and produced in the early 90s. It's our companies, our oil. They stole it from us. Well, I just don't know. Golly gee willikers. Well, Rand, guess what? I'm going to go out to your farm there in Kentucky and cut out my own little place and park my trailer on it, and it's my land now. I'm taking it. What are you going to do about it, Rand? Well, golly gee, I just don't know. Theft is theft. But you've never seen a communist dictator you didn't like. We're fighting for oil. Don't bomb Iran. Oh my God, you're going to get our soldiers killed in a war in Iran for oil and to help the Jews. Oh my God, don't go into Iraq. We're going to get all the oil. Don't get into Afghanistan. We're going to get all the oil and our kids are going to die. Don't, all the oil. Oh my God. Let me ask you a question, Rand. Donald Trump has asked this question. Where's all the oil revenue? You know where the oil fields in in Iraq, and all the mineral rights in Afghanistan, you know where they went to? Anybody know where they went to? Oh, America. No, they didn't. They went to China, which is exactly what's going to happen in Venezuela if we don't do something about it. I'm so tired of these people. Same old talking points, same old stuff. They act like they're so high and above everything. We need to pass laws. We need to declare war. Well, you son of a... You're in the freaking Senate. Write a freaking bill. Do something. Do something. That's what you're there for. If you don't like what the president's doing, write a freaking bill. Well, I just won't be able to get it passed, which is exactly what your daddy said. As he was earmark. He was the king of earmarks. Well, I've got to get money for my constituents. Sell out pieces of crap. I'm tired of all y'all. Tired of all y'all. Really am. I got one more thing I want to talk about. You know, the economy is happening and all this stuff. I saw this post and I felt it. I thought it was interesting. It's a repost of Robert Kalinowski said this. But even if it isn't, I think it's important to understand with what's going on in the economy right now. He says, I'm told this is by Robert Kalinowski. He says, America owns nearly $38 trillion. It's nearly $39 trillion now. Japan owes $9 trillion. The world owes $315 trillion. So let me ask you a question. No one wants to answer. Who do they owe all that money to? Because it's not aliens. It's not some secret country. And it's not a mystery. They owe it to you. Your pension fund, your retirement account, the insurance companies, banks, mutual funds, central banks. In other words, the government borrows money from the public and then use inflation to quietly pay it back with cheaper dollars. That's the game. The U.S. Treasury issues bonds. Who buys them? Personal funds, 401k, insurance companies, banks, and the Federal Reserve, called monetizing the debt. What fun that is. When Japan issues debt, It's the same story, mostly owned by domestic institutions and citizens. So when we ask who will pay the debt, the answer is simple: the savers will. Not through higher taxes at first, but through inflation. That's why governments love debt. Debt allows them to spend today and push the real cost into the future. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Governments don't plan to pay this debt back honestly. They can't. If they raise taxes enough to pay it down, economies would collapse. If they cut spending enough, voters would revolt. So they chose the only option left: debase the currency. It's the way it works. Print money, lower the value of the dollar, pay back old debt in cheaper money. It's not corruption, it's policy. And it explains why the rich keep getting richer. When money is printed, asset prices go up, gold and silver. Real estate. Stock rises, real estate rises, hard assets rise. But if you're holding cash, bonds, fixed income, you lose purchasing power every year. Same debt, same system, opposite results. This is why I've said for decades, savers are losers. Not because saving is bad, but because saving paper money in a debt-based system is financial suicide. The world doesn't have a debt problem. The world has a money problem, a real money problem. And people who understand who the debt is owed to stop being creditors and start being asset owners. Because in the end, the debt will be paid, just not by the people who created it. No, it'll be paid by you. You see, when they're $38 trillion in debt and the dollar becomes devalued to the point that it's not worth anything, it becomes worth less. By the way, did you know that the dollar's worth 1% of what it was worth 100 years ago? When it finally happens and they start printing $5 billion bills like this real Zimbabwe money. Well, $38 trillion debt, what's going to take? A handful of these paid off. Here, pay off the debt. They literally said this a few years ago during the Biden administration. Nasheed Tlaib and AOC came out and said, what we need to do to pay off the debt is print some platinum coins that are $1 trillion coins. We just need to print 38 $1 trillion platinum coins. Boom, debt's paid off. That's what their plan is. Elon Musk is running around saying we don't have to worry about it because there's going to be a high permanent income for universal income for everybody. Everybody's going to get. Here's the thing, and I'm not holding it against Elon. Elon is a visionary. He's a brilliant mind. He's able to put together these cars and these rockets and Starlink and all stuff. So, but he's a Keynesian in his thinking when it comes to money, not an Austrian economics guy. If they start issuing everybody a high universal income, everybody gets $100,000 a year, then it won't be a high universal income because it won't be anything. It won't be worth anything. It will devalue to the point of zero. If money was gold and or silver, which silver right now is at 66.97 and gold's at 43.78. If money was gold and or silver, they would be unable to do that. They couldn't issue a universal income. They couldn't print $38 trillion in debt because it would be attached to something that they couldn't hyperinflate their way out of. Kim Clement gave a prophecy that a simple solution was going to come to the man that he places in office. And he said that they will laugh at him when he says it. So watch for them to laugh at the ideas. I don't think that's going to come till after 2026. And he says, it will be so simple, it can only come from me. Our monetary system is on the brink of collapse. And I know the economic news out there, and I know I'm supposed to be raw Donald Trump. Look, the things that Donald Trump's doing, this tariff stuff and the 1776 thing that he's given to the military off the tariff stuff. I want you to understand something. That the income that's coming in, billions and billions of dollars of income that's coming in from the tariffs, when they tax you, it's a different principle. When they tax you, it is the burden on the American people. When they use a tariff, it's the burden on the imports. Yes, some things may go up in price, but if they start producing them here, they'll go down in price. I want you to understand, it is the principle, it is the money that comes in from taxation and printing is a net drain on the economy. It removes money from the economy. It causes inflation. The money that comes in from tariffs doesn't cause inflation because it is a net gain on the economy. It's a net gain. It produces. It's coming from the production of goods and services instead of out of thin air. That's the difference. That's why America became the industrial powerhouse and the financial powerhouse of the world the first 125 years or so that it existed. Even though we were a fledgling country that hadn't been around very long in comparison, because we had a real decentralized currency, and because our income came from profit centers like tariffs and fees as a government, because the individual got to keep 100% of the sweat of his labor. You know, all these families that everybody talks about in the Rothschilds and all them, the DuPonts and all those folks. You remember all those folks that talk about how, you know how they got stinking filthy rich? Because there was no tax on their money. You're getting 50% of your money taken away from you or more if you add up all the taxes. They didn't have that then. They kept everything they made. And you got people that seem to be on your side, like Rand Paul, who tell you itching ears what you want to hear, while at the same time living off the system. The corrupt, broken system. Let me tell you something. I've told you many times. Listen to me closely. I've told you many times that we live in a combo fascist society. What do I mean? We talked about it. A bureaucracy that makes the decision and runs the country. Communism. A Politburo, so to speak. Attached to an economy that is run by NGOs and corporations in bed with government. Fascism. A communist bureaucracy combined with a fascist economy. Not capitalism. Government picks winners and losers. Where did that idea come from, the merger of communism and fascism? It was the Chinese. It's the Chinese way of doing things. How many of these politicians, Republican and Democrat, over the years, have you heard them say, we need to do it like China does it? China is the way. And here we are. Let me tell you something. All the people, all the prognosticators and the TikTok preachers out there saying that the United States and New York City and all this stuff is the Babylon system, it is not. The Babylon system is the combo fascist system of government tied to Islam, which will be the religion. It'll be a new world order Islamic religion combined with combo fascism. That is the Babylonian system. whether it's in New York or Beijing or somewhere that some nation that hasn't even developed yet. I don't know where the headquarters will be, but that will be how they do it. And if America falls, it will fall from within with a combination of the commo fascists, government, and Islamic religion. Islamic foot soldiers. You can write that down. Now, if you're concerned about the end times, if you're concerned about the Antichrist, so many of my Christian friends are extremely concerned about the Antichrist is coming, and we got to do something to stop it. Let me tell you something, you can't stop it, because if God has ordained it, it's going to happen. If you're concerned about all that, if you're concerned about the rapture coming, let me tell you something. You need to be concerned about your personal rapture. Every single one of us is going to step from this existence to that existence at one of these days. Whether it's being caught up in the sky when the Lord returns or your last breath that you just took. You need to be worried about that. You need to be worried about your personal rapture. Charlie Kirk was. My friend Brent, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, he was looking at motorcycles earlier in the morning and then was dead by the afternoon. 60 years old. Pretty good health, as far as I know. But I know where he's at. He's up there with Charlie Kirk. You need to be concerned about that more than anything else in this world, because you cannot do anything about the day the Lord returns. You can't do anything about when the Antichrist comes. You can't do anything about the Babylonian system. It's ordained by God. It will happen. But you can do something about your own eternal security. So if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, you need to get to know him. You need to seek him. There's two things you need to do is right now. You need to turn to Romans 10, 9 and 10, 11, 12. Read that. Then do that. And then you need to take the Bible and you need to turn it over and open up, and it says in the beginning, and you need to read all the way to the end and do it again and again and again and again and again. Get that inside you. That's what you need to do. You do those two things. You won't have to worry about the rapture. You won't have to worry about the end times. You won't have to worry about anything, because God will be in control and you'll be trusting in God. That's what you need to do right now. And I say that because I love following politics. I love talking about all this stuff. And my worldview is bent upon what the Bible says. Yeah, exactly, Tard. You finally get something right. I don't have to worry about fighting it because I've read the back of the book. We win. Eternity is an awfully long time. Where are you going to go? Anyways, just thought I'd talk about that. There's so much more I could talk about. I don't have time. So anyways, I appreciate y'all being out there and watching my show and supporting my show. And Mike, I saw that pop up and I didn't get to it, but thank you for that very much. He contributed the little tip jar down at the bottom if you want to do that. You don't have to do it. I mean, you could do $2 if you want to support the show. If you really want to support the show, hit the thumbs up button and share this with a friend of yours. Maybe they need to know the information in it. But you guys, I so appreciate you being out there. Just watching the show, supporting over there on wherever you're watching it. I appreciate so much. It means a lot to me that I'm not on here talking to myself and somebody's not even interested. That blows my mind. Anyways, you guys have a great day. Take the weekend off. Take a deep breath. When the Epstein stuff comes, make sure you go to Telegram, telegram.org, download the app. It's just a messenger app. You go to t.me/PatriotMike Thoughts. That's where I'll be posting most of the Epstein stuff as it comes out today. Supposedly. Who knows? Anyways, you guys have a great day.